Please enter your participant or moderator code followed by the pound key. Please say your name followed by the pound key. You are the first participant in the conference.
Or has it been available already?
No.
I'll be back in a minute.
All right.
So that website you said was correct now. Is there a link for that website?
Did you come to one of the meetings?
No.
She gave you a...
Oh, they see there's this pile here.
That's interesting.
Maybe Chelsea has an extra one in the office. I don't know.
Put them away last week, huh?
I wasn't able to.
No, I remember going to the drawer and doing it. But maybe I remember the week before. But they moved that too, I guess. Maybe they were all sitting together.
Well, we had meetings in here.
Yeah. The stampers were both sitting up here.
Yeah, because you left them on the desk.
I did leave them on the desk. It's too big a responsibility.
I understand.
Huh?
I understand.
Maybe I just better hand them off to you now.
I've already messed up a couple times.
Huh? So did Sally ever find a replacement?
Alice is working. But I think she's still looking.
Oh,
There was a lot of yelling going on this morning. Alice has twice as many of these as she has of these.
oh. Wonderful.
Let me see the claims
Couldn't see him.
online.
I saw him.
You didn't get the email, you mean?
I got the email and I clicked on it and it just came up gray. Not.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Did you do it in a preview or did you do it in a open? Like on mine, it will either, I can do it in a smaller preview or I can do it in a full screen
Maybe
open.
that's what I did or something. I did. I tried to do it 2 or 3 times and didn't see it.
We'll give you a chance to look at it before we. We all ready then? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll consider for approval the minutes and agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes and agenda.
I'll second that.
That motion from Jens Holden, a second from Smith to approve the minutes and agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Discussion with possible action regarding COVID-19 policies.
Minnesota has changed some of their policies now. What has Iowa done? Anything
Well, we already, we were ahead of Minnesota.
Yeah.
Previously done away, it's more localized now,
Mhm.
depending on what the communities want. I'm guessing we'll probably have to look at it the 1st of June, whether we're gonna continue some of that other. But we're good for this month anyway on our policies. I guess if Julie pops on, we'll go back to COVID. Let's see.
So those policies are until June right now.
Right, we've been monthly.
Monthly, and so do those kind of come down from the,
Originally, it was a
State?
recommendation by the federal to allow for more leniency kind of in how sick pay is allowed for COVID type of thing. That's most of it, isn't it?
Well, then you expanded it when that expired.
Yeah. But that's where it started, was the federal.
so that's what the discussion would be
Yeah.
on.
It's just that, I mean, right now it's, each department has a choice on how they manage their offices. And
So has anybody been missing work, do you know, in the county because of it with children and?
Not recently.
Say they have, but
The only person, we have one working from home.
So that would change that policy as well then, or could potentially change that.
I don't know that answer. I haven't read the policy for a while, so I don't remember what's in it.
And the one that's working from home has a separate board over them, so.
Mhm.
Oh, yes.
You do remember, though, that Elizabeth came in and said, you know, you should be making the boards all kind of follow what you guys are doing.
That person does have an underlying health condition, so hopefully things will come around.
Yeah.
Well, it's 9:05, public hearing for entering into a loan agreement with TSB Bank for refunding the Public Safety Center bonds. I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll second that.
On a motion from Derby and a second from Smith to open the public hearing for the entering into a loan agreement with TSB Bank. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. So this went through a proposal process and we accepted what we figured was the lowest offer. It will save us quite a bit of interest down the road, but we are making the same payments, correct?
Yes.
So we're accelerating the payoff. Has there been any comments from the public prior to this?
No.
I've had a few asked questions about it, spoke what we were going through and why we were going the route we went, I guess.
They're okay with it?
They seem to be.
I didn't have anyone talk to me about it.
Okay. Well, I guess without any other public comment,
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing for the refunding of the Public Safety Center bonds.
I'll second that.
on a motion from Jensvold and a second from Smith to close the public hearing for the loan agreement with TSB. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Consider for approval a resolution to pay off general obligation loan for Public Safety Center. So we have to pay off the other loan once we get this loan secured.
That's why the claims are so big. Well, I'll make a motion to pay off the general obligation loan for Public Safety Center.
I'll second that.
A motion from Jensvold and a second from Smith to approve the resolution to pay off general obligation loan for Public Safety Center. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Consider for approval, resolution authorizing and improving loan agreement and providing for the issuance of $3,340,000 worth of general obligation refunding note, series 2021. That would be with TSB.
I'll make the motion to authorize and approve a loan agreement providing for the issuance of the $3,340,000 general obligation bond refunding note, series 2021 with TSB.
I'll second that.
On a motion from Jensvold and a second from Smith to approve the resolution authorizing and approving loan agreement. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Let's see, maybe we should just go to 8. Probably Scott might have more time than what's allotted, so. Hi, Chris, do you want to come in for drainage? I have heard a few people still getting shots, so mostly in the younger age group.
Hi.
Good morning.
Pull up a chair.
Well, it's easier to sit than just stand there.
So, do you have anything for us today?
I do not.
So, trying to think, where are we at on that, was it, lat 19 on DD5?
That is if you guys want to meet and get the landowners out there. I only heard from one of you, so I didn't know.
I think we should schedule a time
Yeah.
and place, whether
Let
it
me
wants to be out there or here looking at maps or.
I'll get with the landowners and see what works.
I would really like the idea of doing it out there.
Oh, definitely, so we can all see what everybody's talking about.
It could be towards the end of one of these meetings where we just all go out there and set a time for like 10:30 or
It'd
something.
be nice to be able to look at the maps maybe here first
Mm-hmm.
and then go
I
out
could
there.
bring the map with.
Just easier to look at.
Right, and it's easier to show everyone what we're looking at.
How closely does the tile fire, like if you look it up on,
Beacon is correct.
Thank you.
Mhm.
It's pretty close.
So it's right through the ditch.
So we can look at it right there on that. God does it, it shows it right there.
Mhm.
So if you set up a time, I think that'd be great. Just
Okay.
If
If we
it's
want to
after a
look
meeting,
at the map here, we can just do it under drainage.
yeah, let's do
We're
that.
not deciding anything, we're just looking.
Right. And like I said, we can take the map out there to show the landowners too, what it looks like.
Mhm.
I just feel it'd be better if we were all there,
For sure.
so I'll get that going.
Okay, on the agenda for next week then, as far as going out
We'll
there?
see. I mean, I don't know
Or
what
whenever
everybody has
they-
going, and
Yeah.
so let me get with that.
Just set that up first.
Would Chad be available for that then? Did he do some digging out there at all?
He did, and I think I sent that in the letter that he had. South of that open ditch, everything is fine to the main ditch. From the easement of Heimendinger's has a bunch of holes. And then Heimendinger himself has patched some holes in his field. And then, the road has some issues, so even secondary roads will have some issues. And then there's 17 holes through the
So it's pretty bad
US
shape.
Fish and Wildlife. That's,
Oh, no kidding.
yeah.
It's blown out that many times.
Yeah.
Most of the point needs to
The
be
problem
repaired.
is also it's too shallow. So we'd have to look at
What's the
what
map say
the
it's supposed to
original,
be?
And it's clay, so it's,
Right. And if Fish and Wildlife has had it, I don't know how long they've had it, but
My guess is.
nothing has been done because they're not farming it.
If it goes through there, it's probably gonna have to be, non-perf. if we
Right.
Replace it.
Right. Definitely. Chad does not know if fixing that will help Agastall's issue because of the shallowness, because the tile that they put in privately is so much deeper. So I don't know what lat 19 needs to have to make it functional.
so is it where it's supposed to be, or is it, you know how sometimes when they put in hand dug in clay tile,
Right.
it kind of
We
goes
don't
out?
know.
But
I mean, we'd have to look at
Just
original.
frost will push it up over 100 years.
Exactly. So,
It happens all the time.
Yeah,
So
I just-
if it's designed to be this deep and it's only this deep, we're allowed to put it at that.
Yep.
depth,
Right.
Yep.
Especially if you're replacing it.
I think Chad's recommendation was to annex in that ditch because it would just make it a lot simpler. And it would help out everyone right there. I know the landowners were concerned about other people tiling into them, but I don't know who would at this point. They've already tiled where they're gonna tile to.
Yeah,
So I don't know
Fish and
why all this-
Wildlife has no concern for
Right.
that.
I don't know why all of a sudden you would change your route of where you're already tiling to, just so you can have that ditch that flows right into the main. I don't know who would be doing that. But
So
that's where it will be nice to have everyone there to have their say.
So the south side of the ditch probably was put in to flow to the south, but I'm
Mhm.
guessing if it ever got blocked, it'd flow back into the ditch.
Yeah, and he said that was running fine.
Yeah.
Because I told him to start at the main ditch and do the whole length of 19. Because I wanted to know how 19 is going.
Okay. All right, yeah. get it
So I'll
set
work on
up.
that. Okay.
Anything else for drainage?
I'm just glad we kept pursuing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It's good.
Gotta do it right.
that's right.
I just talked to somebody else, who's got the same problem. He's got a tile that's really shallow, this deal.
Like, you know, we can go original depth, but that's about it. Because you can't upsize the tile.
Well, you can upsize it.
If there's
if
not
it
a
doesn't
tile
increase
available.
the flow.
Well, that,
Or the
yeah,
drainage
going
coefficient.
from tile, or from clay tile to perforated, there's a different coefficient that so you can upsize because
Right,
of that.
and some of the pipe that's there, they don't make anymore, and then you can upsize it to the next size. But that's it.
Anybody else have anything for drainage?
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Chris, wait. You need to get this signed so that you can send this to that lady.
Okay.
The UMB lady,
Thank you.
yes.
I don't know, man. You can figure out, as long as we make it to the end of the year.
God, I feel so bad. I probably did it.
I don't know, when you started out in the office.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, it's 9:15, Robert Schwartz to discuss an option for the
Wanna know how to get rid of them.
Susan and I talked yesterday a little bit about wild parsnip. which is, it's a biennial, so it's, last year it didn't seem like it was as prevalent to me, and the year before it seemed like there was more of it, which would make sense with the biennial. So when the plant starts out, like right now, you're gonna see it, and it's a leafy, it might be about so tall, dark leaves, kind of serrated. And then next year, that plant will come up and send a stalk up, and you'll see the seed heads. The seeds will drop, the plant dies, so the plant is dead after that. And then the seeds may or may not germinate, but they remain viable for years, which is part of the problem with if you try to eradicate it. And if you look around, I talked with a number of different counties that some have roadside programs, some don't, like ours. And some are treating it, a lot aren't. Saragordo County doesn't. Worth County does. Emmett County's doing some. And the chemicals, we have the chemicals we use in our thistle to control thistles will work. We mix them right with on parsnip. Problem is, like now, we got about another 2 weeks to the end of May, and then you're not gonna be able to see them because the grass is getting taller, so it's harder to spray them. So I was also talking to Don Reefer, because he's all over the state and in Minnesota. And they're down in Clinton County, and they're doing some right now, and they'll be done, he said, in about another 10 days. That'll be the end of the window for treating it. It doesn't tend to move off-site. I mean, you'd be in the road ditch, might be on a wildlife area, but it can't survive across the fence in the crop field because it's constantly disturbed, and it needs that 2 years of growth. But what Susan and I talked about, what we could do is, we're not budgeted for it this year, but maybe look at coming up with a plan if we want to target some roads specifically to add parsnip. And as you guys know, it's not a noxious weed as far as state code is concerned. But we spray other weeds that are not noxious, like giant ragweed, or not on the Iowa noxious weed list, like giant ragweed, when it's a site issue or drifting. So, drifting.
Parsnip is kind of a nasty plant.
Pardon me?
Parsnip's kind of a nasty plant.
Yeah.
You would think it would be on the noxious weed list.
Yeah, it's wild carrot which is in the same family. It's in the carrot family. It was introduced here 100 years ago. They used to eat the taproot. And it can irritate the skin if you are in it at the right time when there's resin being produced and it gets on your skin and the sunlight hits your skin and you happen to be sensitive to it. It's not everybody reacts the same.
I just see it encroaching into people's acreages and.
In an area that's disturbed regularly, it's probably not going to do well because you've got to be able to repeat that life cycle.
Right.
The 2 years at least. But, you see it on wildlife areas throughout the state, and road ditches throughout the state when you look around. The state of Iowa, DNR does not do anything with parsnip. We don't do anything with it on our wildlife areas. And we do prescribe burns, which can have an effect on it if you hit it at the right time. But
So how do you keep it down in your wildlife areas? Do you
most of our areas, not 100% of them, but most of them have been planted to prairie. So prairie grasses and forbs will outcompete. We got roots that take up the majority of the subsurface area, whereas the parsnip don't compete well. So they'll deplete. And I think I mentioned this to you yesterday. The DNR, their seed biologist, the guy that grows prairie for the DNR, he did a study about 6 years ago. It wasn't a scientific study, but they had 14 different plots, and they had plots where they did nothing with parsnip. They sprayed it with chemical, mowed it, and then they also cut the taproot. And he found that the area that was the area that was left alone and sprayed after about 4 years looked pretty much the same. That in the area that had prairie in it, it is more depleted because it can't compete. Where it was mowed, it got worse because it's spreading seeds all over. So we get some of that, of course, with roadside mowing. You're going to see that stuff gets mowed and the seeds are spread in the fall, which, that's kind of part of the deal. But and then, so
is there something that we can at least address it somewhat and just?
Well, how about if, like we were kind of talking, if we look at budgeting for next year, And we,
Yeah, but next year's the off year.
well, there's always gonna be parsnip out there. So, I mean, not all the plants are obviously on the same timetable, but, when we, my guys are gonna start spraying here probably in about a week, or, you're not really seeing much with thistles right now, so it's a little early. And if we get some rain and some warmth, that'll change pretty quick, but right now, things are pretty dry.
But if they're out there and they see it, is it possible to spray it?
We could do some of that. I kind of like to have maybe specific areas that they're treating rather than just kind of willy-nilly, but so that we can maybe go back and compare, so we can, they keep records, of course, where they're spraying and what they're spraying. But, yeah, I mean, until I guess, I was talking to Don Reefer too, and he said he's got about another week or so, and then he'll be done, week and a half, but as far as being able to see it effectively.
So why do some counties spray the road ditches every year and we don't?
They're not as concerned about it as, from an economic standpoint, it's not affecting the property owners across the fence as far as encroaching. If you have CRP, like you mentioned, it can grow out there. But they've just chosen not to because it's not on the noxious weed list. You're not going to go out there and roll around in it if you know what it is. And most people aren't down in the road ditches. I know in the summertime, we'll get a news story, it'll pop up and it makes a good story, but it's like poison ivy. You wouldn't go rolling poison ivy if you knew what it was.
I had one person that was concerned about their dog getting into it.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never heard anything as far as animals being infected by it, but yeah, that would be a new one. But
I see it in some of our grassed waterways and, I really like to see that either, and it seems like it's coming from the road ditches, mostly. And it's not coming from the fields,
well, like on the farm ground, you stop spraying for one season and all these weeds are coming up. Most of those weeds, those annual weeds, aren't going to be found in the road ditch. They're going to be found
Right.
on that.
Yeah.
So I think that's maybe the decision that some counties make, that it's not a problem for them. I mean, it might not. Some people don't like the looks of it when it turns brown. Like right now, if you're out, Bill, maybe if you're going back to Buffalo, if you look on 842 west of the mill, you might see some yellow, and it looks almost identical to parsnip, but it's golden Alexander, which is a native. But the average person wouldn't know the difference. But they're blooming now. They bloom early. Parsnip blooms more like July, August kind of thing. But,
And at what stage should they be sprayed?
most people in the rosette stage when it's low and leafy.
It's so stemmy and the leaves don't go up the stems, so it's hard to kill. Because there's just not a lot of foliage.
Yeah, it's a little harder to see, but yeah, you want to get, it's not so hard to kill with the chemicals, but you got to get a good application on it too. So, but,
I guess I'd like to see if you would be willing to try it somewhere and just see if it makes a difference
Sure.
and somehow monitor it so that we know.
yeah, we'll do some comparisons so we can.
And then if there's some really bad spots in the county, we can focus.
Say if there's some spots that people want taken care of, we could try, experimenting in a few of those spots to see how the control works, I guess. But, for the most part, nobody goes in most of the ditches anyway where it's at.
But, you go out and you mow your field driveways all over the county and, it's there and we're out there mowing and it's shooting it all over the place. It's a concern. I've had it before. It's really
Wear your moon
very
suit when you're mowing
unpleasant.
it. You'll have to get yourself one of them moon suits so
They're,
you won't be exposed to all that.
Just wear a mask.
There you go. that'll do it.
And if you guys get any complaints, or anybody has concerns going forward, just make sure to give us a call right away so we can get on it.
Sure, and just tell them the location, tell you the locations
yeah.
that the people are.
And if you've got a name and number, we can take that too, because we like, usually within 48 hours, we try to get to those spots. We'll write them down and I'll call the guys out under trucks and let them know where they're at. And it might be on the other side of the county, but they'll take care of it. We don't want them sitting there festering, somebody's concerned, we're not gonna show up. And then like we've talked about before, we're gonna work with Scott as far as the brush and help identify spots. So one of our crews is probably gonna work on brush right away this year again, so we're on top of that.
Good.
All right. Terry, I don't know if you heard me earlier, but I was communicating with Whitberry County's director of the Conservation Board yesterday and talking about COVID money, the American Recovery Act funds. And their Board of Supervisors came out and said they were going to spend their first $10 million on their jail that has come in over budget related to COVID. So I asked him if he could provide some wording on how they're actually going to go forward. He said he's going to get some to me, so I'll see. 'Cause all the counties are wondering, and I know Carla said you haven't got any real good guidance. The last thing I saw was about May 10th, and it doesn't really give you much.
I see up in Minnesota, some of the things they're gonna be doing with COVID money, it's pretty off the wall.
Well,
I was in a class the other night about it, and I asked the question about the conservation center, and never got an answer.
I sent an email to somebody at NACO that I was reading something, and I never got a response either.
Well, it was
I think because they probably don't have the answer.
definitely, the increase was associated with the increased construction
Oh,
expenses.
yeah.
So if it goes for things like that somewhere else, it should be able to.
You know,
I want to make sure that we get somebody's blessing, because I don't want to end up paying it back.
Yeah.
That's-
Yeah, you definitely want to know that it's approved up front before you would do anything.
Yeah, I wasn't saying that.
Yeah, I want to be cautious, because I
I'm
don't,
just saying, it seems like there should be an approval of that because of what the
Well-
circumstances are.
there should be, but I haven't gotten any real good guidance on anything yet. So, and I feel like the guidance is more for cities with the, the sewer and I feel like they're kind of leaving the counties.
They talk about PPs and salaries related to COVID and, sewer and water. Lost revenue, I know one of the counties was saying they felt like they lost, this particular county said they lost $100,000 in revenue last year because of COVID. But,
And I need to look at that yet. I haven't done that yet, but I don't know. I wish it could just go towards tax relief and be done with it, but that's a no-no.
So you actually, the monies are here?
No.
They're on their way? And we have no idea when that's coming though?
It should be soon.
Do we know the dollars amount?
Well, supposedly it's, half of it comes now and half of it comes later. So it should be around $1 million that we get first.
because I read like just a little over 2 million. Is that, so that's not for the cities in our county, that's
No,
just for
that's
Winnebago
just for
County?
the county.
That's what I was.
Yeah.
So I hadn't seen a breakdown for cities. At least I hadn't seen it.
Yeah, they'll get their own money.
Yeah, I just wish they'd get us some good guidance, because I don't feel like we have that yet.
No, I agree.
Yeah, the nice thing would be so you could start planning and know, rather than when you get the money in there, it sits.
Yeah. They talked about putting together a committee to come up with ideas and all these things, but like I said, until you get guidance, how do you put together a committee to talk about it? When you don't know it, you can,
Yeah,
It's tough when
Yeah.
you,
unless you can just come up with a prioritized list and then see where the two mesh,
So that you're ready to go, maybe when the rule does come out, I suppose you can do that.
it's tough when you're working in a system that, the mentality is we gotta pass this thing so we can see what's in it. And then figure it out later.
Make up the rules later.
Yeah.
Happens all the time. Yeah. Anything to do with federal money.
Well, let's make sure that doesn't happen on the county level.
All right.
Good, thanks.
Very good.
Thanks for coming in.
Guys, have a good day. We'll see
Yeah,
you.
you
Thanks.
too.
Like I said, any money that I want to spend on it,
Are you
I want to
ready
make
for
sure
you?
it's approved so that we don't have to send it back.
Oh, for sure.
Because once you've gone ahead with that, then all of a sudden we have to find the money to replace it, so
That would be a
it's
mess.
not like it's money that's already there, because it isn't in their budget, so it's.
So the other day, probably the one thing I really wanted at that auction,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't stick around for.
Oh, yeah?
It was one of the last things that sold. I think everybody
You
kind
could
of
do
gone.
it online, couldn't you?
I was busy. And it was that pile of 2x4s.
Oh,
100 2x4s nailed together like sandwiched together with just pieces, chunks of plywood, just little ones to make look like headers, but they were braces for all the plywood or the wood forms.
Yeah.
They're 2x4x8s, and about 100 of them. They went for $72.
oh.
72 cents a piece.
They're a lot
Would
more
have taken you
expensive
$1
than
worth
that.
of
Right,
labor,
right,
so
right
you
now
had
at Menards they're
$1.72.
$12, and at the lumberyard they're higher than
I
that.
was gonna say, you could have,
They
more
look
than had your son pull all them nails to free them
like-
up.
well, with just 3 blocks in them, doesn't take much to pull those nails.
Yeah.
I couldn't stick around for what I was interested in either.
I kind of left and then came back. They were still not there. The bridge planking took so long.
Did it?
It sounds like overall the auction went pretty good though.
So I had to leave by 1:30, and they were just into that center area back again. I thought they would have gone there next. No, they did the bridge planking next.
So did they list all of the
It
sold for prices on?
That's where I saw it.
Okay. Well, Scott should have a total then on that.
Less the percentage. Well, then not all of it was his. That one, Rhino, my first 6,000 something, 6,600 or 700. I don't know what year it was, but I knew it was only 7,000 something. I think that was conservation. So they did well.
I heard it went pretty good.
Trucks went for, the big trucks went for 43 each, I think.
I talked to somebody who works for the auctioneer.
There was, I think the guys that worked there were surprised how much they got for the Oshkosh. It was just under 20.
Yeah, that's kind of a unique piece of equipment, dude.
Kind of a buyer beware though.
Yeah, well, but it's not, like I say, it's not a practical.
Yeah. They can
piece
do
of
one
equipment.
heck of a job, but once it breaks down.
Yeah.
Were
And it-
all of the trucks secondary roads? All those pickups and that one?
I'm not sure if there was one that was, they looked like they were all secondary roads.
I think they were.
Yeah. When I went through the list, I think that they were.
It was a good day for it.
Yeah.
It was windy, but it was a good day. That always helps an auction, weather.
I didn't go because then I might buy something.
I wouldn't say there was a ton of people there, but there was still the competition online, so.
That's the online thing is, you got guys, these jockeys used to only be able to go to one auction at a time. Now they can be at 3 or 4 at a time. So you
They
get,
can set their price ahead of time, they don't have to be bidding.
yeah.
But what was that in the end bid though, that they had to be on? For the finance bid, you were saying?
Well,
You
yeah,
can delay it.
Yeah, the delay.
they give them so much time to get another bid in, somebody that's been doing it online, or if you put a bid in early and then somebody outbids you and then you decide, so they give the time in case that guy wants to.
So that,
Didn't seem like it was doing that in person, because it went pretty
that's
fast on
actually what TJ
those,
said too, that's why I
those,
wondered.
spare tires,
Mhm.
that I was bidding on. I was on the phone with a guy and didn't have much of a chance to get.
He said it didn't seem like there was much of a delay either, that's why I asked about it.
Morning, Scott.
Morning.
We're talking about the auction.
Hot topic.
Mhm.
Auction went really well last week.
What did you project?
I didn't do a formal projection, but when I had kind of talked to Jason Hallberg initially, I thought maybe 80 to 100,000. I didn't really put a lot of,
You got that from 2 trucks.
yeah, we are,
I thought you said 300,000 when I asked you last week. No?
that my projection initially is what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
And I hadn't inventoried the lumber or, and we didn't know what we were selling at that point, so it was just a guess. And I hadn't really I hadn't put a value on the spreadsheet of all the items either, so. Again, I would have maybe thought 150 or something like that. Like I said,
So what was it?
Jason said the auction grossed 271,000. That's
Was there much
kind
of
of
that?
subject to change and has his finalizes numbers.
Now, was that everything, or was that just
Everything, everything, all departments, gross proceeds.
So county conservation had a couple of things there.
Conservation, law enforcement will have commission and advertising costs. So we'll have to get that all split up when we get the report from them. I would think maybe early next week we'll have that. Have more final numbers to talk
It
about.
looks a little cleared out over there
Yeah.
compared to what it did.
Yeah, the guys have been really, working to get guys loaded out and get everything out of there. Some things going back to Hallberg's for him to kind of, find their homes for. Got a few things to load out here through the week, but doing well. Everything's sold except for 3 or 4 lots, and some of that we were able to kind of make a deal with somebody on and get it gone after the fact, so that's good too. The things that didn't sell were small, like computers and printers, and some fenders didn't sell, a couple concrete bridge beams. But otherwise, everything sold, which is good, because, landfill costs are crazy.
I saw one of them concrete bridge beams go through Buffalo the other day.
Sure, yeah, I think Jason ended up with a couple of them.
Is that where they were
Were those the curved ones then?
The curved ones didn't sell at the auction, but they're sold now. So, we're thrilled. The work we put into it, I think, paid off. We had Jeff Thompson and working on body work and painting the 2 trucks and the service truck. He did a great job. And I think when you look at other counties and what their plow trucks are selling for, $5,000-10,000, I'd call it. It really goes to show what that kind of effort can do for the trucks. You kind of strip them all down and repaint and fix the holes in the box or that kind of stuff. Really does well. So there are some things where the effort is definitely worth it. There's other things where we think we can offload items more regularly and try to keep the yard inventory lower. So we're going to look into some different options too that way. For equipment trades and other sales, and for supplies, taking them to auction yards or trying to bid removal of a bridge. Some counties do that. They'll get a few bucks and we don't have to handle it. Some options out there we'll look into.
At least you know what the value is at an auction, so if you're gonna figure a bridge,
Right. That's good, yep. Now we got some good data to kind of make some better decisions going forward. Lumber sold really well. I'd say 1.5 to 2 times the price of a lot of the stuff on last auction. We've talked about it before, but the truck sold for about 1.5, a little more than last auction. Really encouraging. I guess a lot of online bidders ended up with stuff, so I gotta imagine that really helped a lot. Economy in the markets, I'm sure, helped a lot. So
Yeah, there wasn't a ton of people there for bidding
I think we had
compared to some years.
100 and some in-person bidders and then 300 and some total bidders. So happy with that. Jason Hallberg was really good to work with and his team. So they really helped out. Our guys spent a lot of time organizing and getting stuff into lots, and they did a nice job. Can't say enough about the team that worked together to get it all done. So glad to have it behind us. I guess we got other work to do. So,
Yeah, I'm sure it took
a couple weeks of
hours.
organizing, and then it'll be 3-4 days of load now.
It looked really good in there. Everything was well organized and everything was shined up. And
Yep. Again, a nice job, but we got other work to do. So now we're getting back to culverts and tile work and that kind of stuff. So. Anything else on the auction? I got a couple other things. DD 18 Lat 11 is B&B's working on that project, and they're crossing the road right now. We closed that road yesterday, and our guys have been working with them to kind of haul pavement away and haul materials. And they should be through the road now and ought to be backfilling, is what I understand. I haven't been up there to see it. It'll happen quite quickly, and they're fast. They're using a trench box, so they're not having to cut quite the hole that we normally would. So that should be open tomorrow, and it'll have a temporary millings patch in it, so we'll have to come back and patch that later, but still 2 or 3 day closure is pretty good for that kind of project. So that's going quite well. The other thing is of course we had right away approved for the J11 W1 bridge replacement project. So I took quotes on that structure, and will be the same supplier as our other bridge, Forterra. Structure costs about $68,000. So we'll try and get that put in this early fall as soon as we can get it. But waiting this long into the summer is not ideal. So it has quite a bit of lead time here. So we'll try and get it in, I'd say September. Those bids came in well. They're all close and lower than I had estimated.
Which is unusual compared to everything else.
Yeah, concrete is somewhat protected maybe from the volatility of the markets at this point.
It'll be a matter of time.
Yeah. So those are the 3 main things I had for today.
You ever get a lease tractor?
We have it now. I think Ethan went and picked it up yesterday.
I didn't see it there at the day of the auction. And
Yep, I think yesterday, or maybe Friday. I think it was yesterday. Yesterday.
Is that from John Deere?
Yep. Yep. So, I don't know, usually try and get it on the batwing mower and start mowing here first part of June, so that's coming right up. Try to have all the paved road shoulders and everything mowed by the 4th of July holiday.
what kind of price do they lease that?
We pay something like $6,600 for the summer, and we're limited on hours, but we haven't got up against that max. we don't put a lot of hours on it. Really, the main purpose or the reason that we've done that as opposed to using other tractors is because it takes so much time, labor to dismount all the equipment off our other tractor mowers in order to hook it up to the batwing mower. So we save kind of, I don't know, a few days worth of mounting and dismounting equipment by leasing a tractor. So,
Have you thought more about in the future, purchasing with government pricing and rotating every year?
buying another tractor.
Yeah, instead of leasing.
Yeah, we've thought about it, and I think we can continue to see if that's the right option. 6,600 is cheaper than we can own a tractor, I think. It just depends on if it's
Depends on what
meeting the needs.
Depends on what the discount is.
Yeah, we bought tractors recently and can't remember the price, but again, 6,600 year after year after year just doesn't add up very fast. But I can look back.
Is that one
We
of
also-
the used tractors then, or is that a?
And we always have a new tractor.
It's a new one.
At one time, I know government discount was at 27%, and I don't know if it's back.
Yeah, I don't know
Lot
what,
less
I
than
never really see retail
They backed
price.
it off for a while when the market was getting strong, and I don't know where they're at right now, but
Yeah.
I guess my concern is if we can rotate every year or every other year or whatever without any cost, where we can,
Just the capital outlay.
the initial is the only thing you have to deal with.
Yeah, and the nice part about lease is you just don't need the capital,
Bad part about leases, it's not available when you want it,
right?
which we went through this spring. It would have been nice to have that tractor.
Yeah. You know, but one thing about having other things available in the spring is, you know, we're trying to do a number of different things with windrows and pulling in shoulders on gravel roads. And we had the disc on the maintainer pretty soon this spring, but of course Ethan was a little bit leery about taking snow equipment off too early, as just, you know, being his first time through the winter, but that's one thing. So it's been out and we've done, I want to say 70 miles of pavement with it, and Ethan was working with Marcus on some gravel road miles, and I want to say they did maybe 15 miles of gravel shoulders, and I think they were encouraged at how well it worked for that. We're looking at some different implements and things like that, so we'll, you know, maybe by next year have kind of a better multi-pronged approach earlier in the spring and do a little better with windrows.
Well, my concern is if we have a piece of equipment we paid good money for, it just sits there, that we can't use because we don't have a tractor to pull it.
Yeah, we've gotten lease tractors, I think, for maybe 6 or 7 years now for that purpose, and I think this is the only time we've had trouble getting it in the spring. But, you know, whenever you're leasing or renting, you're always subject to the availability.
They have a backlog on a lot of equipment right now because of this whole.
Yeah. So, I mean, some counties lease their whole motor grader fleet. It's like, yeah, that works pretty good until something like this were to happen, and then you might
When you don't
be
have
in
them.
bad shape.
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean, nobody's gonna come take our graders.
Yeah. And I guess if you buy the tractor, nobody will take your tractor either, but.
Right.
What happened to the tractor that you must have used to have for, I mean,
Summer use only.
it was summer use only?
That we used to have.
Or what did
The
you,
one last year.
The only way we added into the fleet was through a lease.
that's the only way in the last 6 years it's only
Right,
been
we
leased?
leased a new tractor every year for like the 6
6
months during
years.
the summer, and then we give it back, and then next year they find us a new one and lease it to us, and then, you know, we've gone through that cycle many times.
Okay. So it's always been a leased tractor that's pulled this implement that you're talking about.
Right, and that implement was bought only 3 years ago or something like that. 3-4 years ago?
At least 4, I think.
Is it 4 already?
I don't know, it seems like it.
Seems like it wasn't that long ago. Time flies.
Yeah.
We had fun.
And you gotta remember, we had a year of COVID, it's all a blur.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I can't think of anything anymore.
I think it was probably at least 1.5 to 2 years BC.
All right. Yeah. I'm sure that'll go down in the history.
Yeah.
Well, 2 BCs now, yeah.
Anything else for roads?
Have you, noticed the trees growing in the ditch up by Rake on the blacktop on the east side of the road right before you get to the railroad tracks? There's, like 4 trees there, and they're getting monstrous. Are they hurting much so far? Doesn't seem to be, but, they're relatively close to the DD 21
The
main.
ditch kind of real deep there, right
Yeah.
up the tracks on the east side there. I
Yeah.
haven't noticed that. Are they, I don't know, foot diameter trunks or no?
Oh, yeah, they're big.
Are they in
I was noticing.
our side of the fence or?
They're right on, I don't know, you'd have to get the tape measure out and measure it, that's how close they are.
Yeah.
But, I just hate to see them, that main is already overwhelmed. And if it's gonna get tree roots in it, it ain't gonna help anything out, which, I mean, it's must be a 30-inch there at least.
Yeah, it's big.
Yeah.
Okay, we can,
Just something to look at when you go by or whatever. I just happen to really pay attention
yeah.
the other day when I went up there, and then ever since, I've been by several times, and I'm like, those are big.
Yeah. You chainsaw work probably?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You have something to treat the stumps then?
Hand sprayer with some chemical, I suppose.
A farmer told me that if I just take straight Roundup, pour it on the fresh cut.
I mean, they make products specifically for it, and
Straight Roundup.
Yeah.
Roundup
You
doesn't
do it
work.
right when you cut it though.
Straight Roundup doesn't work real good for killing weeds. It's
Supposed
just,
to rot
once it's mixed with the water, it makes it more
I've heard
potent.
that recently too. I always use Garlon as a product that, for brush and
Well, I'm sure
trees.
straight Roundup won't do it any good. If nothing else, it'll give it, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
There you go.
Yeah.
Won't survive that.
Yeah.
All right.
Anything else for roads? All right, thanks, John.
yep, thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Consider for approval, Third Amendment to the Child Support County Staffing Contract.
Tell me there's been a first and a second amendment?
I just put on the agenda what they tell me to.
Because I'm clueless on this. You're gonna have to fill me in, or we'll all have to read that.
Maybe
So,
just as clueless.
What it is we're in a group with, I don't know, can't remember off the top of my head, maybe 10 counties.
To the west mostly, isn't it?
I don't know that answer. But we are in a child support recovery group, and we pay, so we don't pay anything. The state pays it, but we take turns being the host county for them. So like when it's our turn, we pay their salaries, we pay their benefits,
We always put it over to, it stays in Floyd, doesn't it?
well,
It's just-
it has been the last like 3 years or so.
Yeah, rather than have all that.
Yeah, so, but in the past, it's always rotated. So, but the state pays for it, it's just the work of paying the claims and paying the payroll and that kind of thing.
Okay. Is it multiple employees?
Yes.
And they are considered an employee of,
Well, technically, they're an employee of the county that is hosting at the time. But technically,
It's state.
it's state money that reimburses, so
Yeah,
I'm just thinking for the benefits and stuff, are they full-time with benefits?
they're full-time with benefits, but they have the benefits of the county that's hosting at the time.
which would be Floyd, I just right here, I see it now.
Yeah, no.
Trying to remember what the reasoning was for, to just leave it in one county rather than rotate it. Oh, well,
Well,
because the employees have to move.
Because
too.
it's, if you have to change your benefits every year, or
Yeah,
every 3
yeah,
years,
that-
how would you
yeah.
like it?
Mhm.
Yeah. If I remember right, Floyd had kind of like the middle of the road benefits, weren't as good as some, and weren't as bad as others or whatever. So. Trying to remember why. Whether it's just something we've discussed here before, or whether I've discussed this somewhere else.
What about?
Well, this whole thing with Floyd County being the host county. I've had this conversation before, and I can't remember where or why.
Well, probably here last year, or 3 years ago.
Most of the counties, it's Franklin, Hancock, Cassuth, Mitchell, Winnebago, Worth.
When Kelsey looked at it, she said it was fine.
Yeah.
Do we have the claims here?
Switch.
There's reading for you. I much prefer looking at it that way than on the screen.
I couldn't bring it up. I was doing
It's
something
kind
else.
of funny, huh? I have had messages like that, though, that when I bring it up, it's just completely blue screen, there's nothing on it.
Mhm.
I'll make a motion to approve the third amendment to the Child Support County Staffing Contract.
I'll second it.
On a motion from Derby and a second from Jensvold to approve the third amendment to the Child Support County Staffing Contract. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Not very often where it's the chair of the Board of Supervisors and the county attorney that sign it.
Oh, yeah. The auditor must feel left out.
I'm sure that's it.
Consider for approval liquor license and ownership update for Super Bowl.
Did you stamp it?
Yes, I did.
Did you stamp it approved?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I know I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but
Just assuming it's gonna be okay.
no, let's not dissect that word.
Okay, let me see here. So technically this is this is two. Is this two liquor licenses?
Yes.
Okay. This is, we'll ownership update for the Super Bowl and also that's a separate item, okay. We're gonna have to have 2 stamps on this maybe, or?
No, just one is fine.
Right. Okay, do you wanna make a motion on the Super Bowl since it's in here?
I will. I will make a motion to approve the liquor license and ownership update.
For the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl.
I'll second it. A motion from Smith and a second from Derby to approve the liquor license and ownership update for the Super Bowl. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Consider for approval liquor license for Rice Lake Isaac Walton Community Center.
I can make that motion as well for the liquor license for Rice Lake Bikes.
I'll second it.
On a motion from Smith and a second from Jensvold to approve the liquor license for Rice Lake Isaac Walton Community Center. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, motion carries. Open forum. Anything else for open forum?
He's still looking at it.
This is received, isn't it? Or,
It's just received. But remember what I keep saying about Elizabeth and saying how the board should be equal to kind of what you guys are doing? Yeah. I just don't think it's fair that the assessor gets a 7% raise and everybody else gets a 4% raise.
Well, it's one of those things where there are very few of them. They've made it so hard to even be an assessor anymore that it is what it is. I mean, you have somebody starting without being they were a deputy assessor and they started about the same price and they don't even do the website stuff that she's doing. Okay, to consider for approval of semi-monthly county claims.
make a motion to approve the semi-monthly county claims.
I'll second that.
Got a motion from Jensvold and a second from Smith to approve the semi-monthly county claims. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. We stand adjourned.
This is what they handed out at the meeting? Oh, and this,
These are the offerings,
That's just for Aflac.
supplementals.
hmm.
Chelsea might have the other stuff